Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Today's story takes place on what should have been a harmless summer camp tradition, Ice Cream Day. Hundreds of kids, nonstop scooping, heat, exhaustion, and one final customer who turned a simple question into a power struggle. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. A Karen demanded I call the ice cream factory. So I'm working at this summer camp, and it's ice cream day, which sounds fun until you realize that ice cream day means standing behind a freezer and scooping non-stop for what feels like your entire natural lifespan. I'm not exaggerating when I say I scooped around 1,500 scoops of ice cream that day. Vanilla, vanilla again, chocolate again, repeat until your arm feels like it's going to detach and walk away on its own. It's hot, the kids are feral in that end of summer way. Everyone suddenly wants extra sprinkles. And I'm tired, like bone deep tired. I've been smiling and saying what flavor for hours, and I'm counting down the minutes until I can clean up and go collapse somewhere quiet. Finally, the line is gone. One person left. The last scoop. Freedom is within reach. Enter Karen. She steps up to the counter and immediately hits me with, "Does this ice cream have peanuts? I'm very allergic and can't have peanuts near me." Okay, fine. Peanut allergies are serious. I'm not a monster. I'm tired, not reckless. I take a breath and look at the tub in front of me. "It's vanilla ice cream," I say. "Well, there might be peanuts in it," she replies, dead serious. Now my brain short-circuits a little, because what? It's vanilla, plain, no chunks, no swirls, no toppings, just frozen sadness and milk. But sure, okay, benefit of the doubt. I can check with the kitchen, I say, already feeling the headache forming. So I go back inside and ask the head chef, who's been doing this job longer than I've been alive. "Hey chef, is there peanuts in the vanilla ice cream?" He looks at me like I just asked if water is wet. "No, it's vanilla ice cream, and we don't even have peanuts out as toppings today." Great, easy. I go back out and relay exactly that. "There are no peanuts in it," I tell Karen. "Chef confirmed, and we don't have peanuts out at all." This should be the end. It's not the end. "Well, I need you to check the box and see if peanuts are listed in the ingredients," she says, like she's issuing a court order. At this point, I'm exhausted enough that I don't argue. I sigh internally, turn around, and head back down the stairs to the walk-in freezer. I find the box, read the ingredients, and because I already know how this woman operates, I grab the box and bring it back with me. "There are no peanuts listed in the ingredients," I say, pointing directly at the label. She takes the box, she reads it, slowly, like she's hoping the word peanut will magically appear if she stares long enough. Then she looks up at me and says, "Well, there might have been peanuts in the factory where this was made. You need to check." I just stare at her, like actually stare, because my brain is now completely offline. "And how exactly am I supposed to do that?" I ask, probably a bit snarky because I'm done. "Call the factory. Ask them what they had for lunch." That's when she flips. She starts going off about how I'm treating her terribly, how I'm discriminating against her allergy, how she deserves ice cream just like everyone else, and how she's absolutely going to complain to management about my poor attitude. Something in me just lets go. I smile, I shrug, and I say, "Honestly, this is a crappy summer job. I get paid barely anything. No one else wants to do it, and I've been scooping ice cream for hours. You can complain if you want." She looks shocked, like she expected me to panic, apologize, beg her not to report me. Instead, I'm just standing there, dead inside, holding a scoop. She storms off in a huff, muttering to herself about how unacceptable this all is. And here's the thing, there was an alternative. In the freezer, in the back, we had a big bucket of strawberry sherbet that was made in-house. It was for kids who were lactose intolerant or had dietary restrictions. No peanuts, no dairy, completely safe, guaranteed. I could have offered it. I could have saved myself the entire interaction by saying, "Hey, we have a peanut-free sherbet option," but by the time she escalated to check the factory, that option was off the table, because allergies deserve to be taken seriously, but weaponizing them to bully exhausted minimum wage workers is a choice. And some people, frankly, do not deserve ice cream. The kids earlier that day, sweet, polite, grateful. Even the ones who dropped their cones everywhere apologized. Karen, she wanted control, not dessert, so she left empty-handed. I cleaned my station, I went home, and I slept like someone who had scooped 1,500 scoops of ice cream and denied exactly one person who absolutely earned it. No regrets. This woman's the reason people stop taking allergies seriously. Real allergy management's about risk assessment and personal responsibility, not demanding a teenager call a manufacturing plant during ice cream hour at a summer camp. If she truly couldn't tolerate shared facilities, she shouldn't be eating scoop ice cream at all, period. You did everything right, and honestly more than most places would. She wasn't protecting herself, she was performing. And our next story. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with a turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. She told me to clean her windows. It cost her hundreds. This isn't my story, but one from a client of mine. I did get permission to share it with names changed, and honestly, it was too good not to tell. Let's set the scene. This happened just last week. My client, let's call her Clara, 25-year-old female, owns a small but very high-end boutique in one of the larger European cities. Her shop isn't on the main tourist drag, but it's on that street, the kind of street locals brag about. It's consistently voted the most charming or fanciest street in the city thanks to its original medieval buildings, narrow layout, and beautiful overhanging plants that trail down from balconies and facades. The whole place has this relaxed, almost storybook atmosphere. It's great for business. It's also a nightmare for windows. Those same overhanging plants drop pollen, seeds, and sticky residue constantly. Storefront windows get dirty fast, sometimes within a single day. Most shop owners on the street clean their windows daily, sometimes twice a day during peak seasons, just to keep things looking presentable. Clara, however, is smart. She invested in a special, fairly expensive chemical coating that she adds to her cleaning water. It creates a slick surface on the glass that prevents seeds and residue from sticking. The result? She only needs to clean her windows once a week, sometimes even less. Her windows always look spotless while everyone else is out there every morning with buckets and squeegees. Enter Karen. Karen, around 40-year-old female, owns the neighboring store. She's been on that street longer than Clara and very much considers herself senior royalty of the block. One day, while Clara's calmly doing her weekly window cleaning, Karen storms out of her shop, clearly annoyed. Karen, how do you keep your windows so clean? I demand to know. Clara, a bit taken aback but polite, I add a special coating to the water. It's pretty expensive, but it keeps things from sticking. Karen pauses, gears visibly turning. Karen, so that bucket you're using right now, that has the coating in it? Clara, yes. Karen, satisfied, great. Let me know when you're done with my windows. Clara, why would I clean your windows? Karen, completely serious, because as the senior store owner on this street, I deserve it. Clara, still trying to process the audacity, will you reimburse me for my time and materials? Karen laughs, don't be silly. My store brings customers to this street. You benefit from my presence. Clara, noting that their stores sell completely different products to completely different customers, so you want me to do it for free? Karen smirks. So you youngsters do understand after all. Good. Off you go. Let me know when you're done. And with that, Karen turns around and walks back into her shop like she just assigned a task to an employee. At this point, Clara is stunned. Not just annoyed, genuinely offended. She doesn't argue, she doesn't escalate, she simply decides right then and there that Karen has earned herself a lesson in manners. Karen finishes cleaning her own windows properly. She washes them, dries them, and makes them sparkle like always. Then she looks at the remaining bucket of water. Casually, she walks over and splashes it across Karen's storefront windows, all of them. She even goes back inside, fills another bucket, and does the remaining panes just to be thorough. Then she returns to her shop and continues her day. To anyone watching, it looks harmless, neighborly even. Free window cleaning, right? Here's the part Karen didn't know. If you don't dry the windows after washing them, you get water stains. Normally that's annoying, but manageable. However, the coating Clara uses hardens those stains if they're left to dry naturally. Once said, hosing the windows down won't fix it. The stains disappear while the glass is wet and then reappear the moment it dries. This cycle repeats until the coating is completely stripped off. And stripping that coating takes about 6 months of regular weather exposure or professional removal. Karen, of course, didn't dry her windows. Within a day, her storefront looked worse than ever. Streaky, blotchy, permanently dirty no matter how much she rinsed it. She was furious. She threatened legal action against Clara. that went nowhere because Clara hadn't damaged anything. She had technically cleaned Karen's windows. What did happen was that Karen had to hire a professional window cleaning company to remove the coating. It took 3 separate cleaning sessions with specialized products to fully strip it off. The final cost? Several €100. Clara's windows, meanwhile, remained pristine. The moral of the story is simple. Don't insult someone who knows exactly how things work, and definitely don't assume entitlement will get you free labor, because sometimes it gets you 6 months of ugly windows instead. What I love here is that Clara never stopped acting like a business owner. She protected her time, her materials, and her brand without once raising her voice. Karen tried to extract free labor using exposure logic, which is just freeloading with extra words. Clara responded with a technically correct service that had an unintended for Karen outcome. No contracts broken, no property damage, just a very expensive lesson in why you don't demand unpaid work from someone who understands their tools better than you. And our next story. They refused to pay for the land they built on. I had it removed. I own about 7 acres of land, most of it wooded. It's the kind of property you buy because you want the space, privacy, and the comfort of knowing where your boundaries are, literally and figuratively. I've lived here long enough to know every tree line, every dip in the terrain, and exactly where my property ends. Or at least I thought everyone else did too. My neighbors moved in a few years back. They've got a couple of kids, and from day one it was obvious they wanted the full suburban dream. Big yard energy without actually buying the land to support it. The husband was mostly quiet. The wife, on the other hand, was memorable, loud, opinionated, and very confident about things she was very wrong about. We'd had minor run-ins before, complaints about leaves, comments about how I should really clean up the woods, little digs disguised as friendly advice. So when I noticed fresh construction noises coming from the edge of my property, I didn't think much of it at first. Kids' playsets pop up all the time. But then I walked the boundary line, and that's when I saw it. A large wooden playhouse, elevated, framed, roofed, sitting several feet inside my property line. Not brushing it, not close, fully on my land. At first, I honestly assumed it was a mistake. Boundary lines can be confusing if you've never bothered to check them, so I did the reasonable thing. I grabbed my survey paperwork, walked over, and knocked on their door. The husband answered. I explained calmly that the playhouse was on my property and showed him the survey markers. He looked uncomfortable, but didn't argue. He said he'd talk to his wife. That was my first mistake, assuming this would stay calm. Later that evening, the wife marched over to my driveway like she was heading into battle. She didn't ask, she didn't clarify. She immediately started with, "We've already spent a lot of money on that playhouse." I told her I understood, but it was still on my land. She waved her hand dismissively and said, "Well, it's basically our land anyway. No one uses that part." That was when I realized this wasn't going to be a misunderstanding. It was going to be entitlement. I told them I wasn't trying to cause problems. I offered a solution. They could buy that section of land from me at fair market value. Clean, legal, documented, everyone wins. They keep the playhouse, I get compensated, and the boundary becomes official. She scoffed. "We're not paying you for land you don't even use," she said. I replied, "Whether I use it or not doesn't change ownership." She crossed her arms and said, "You wouldn't really make kids tear down their playhouse, would you?" That was the moment the conversation shifted from negotiation to manipulation. I told them I'd give them time to think about it, but they needed to either remove the structure or come back to me with an offer. I wasn't going to argue in the driveway. Over the next few weeks, nothing changed. The playhouse stayed. The kids used it. I got passive-aggressive comments anytime I was outside. The wife made sure to loudly tell people how sad it was that some people cared more about land than children. I sent a formal letter, no response. I had my surveyor reconfirm the boundary, no doubt. So I contacted my lawyer. He reviewed everything and told me exactly what I already knew. The structure was trespassing. I was within my rights to have it removed. I gave them one final notice. That's when the wife showed up at my door, furious. "You are a heartless bully," she said. "Do you have any idea how cruel this is?" I told her calmly that they'd been given every opportunity to resolve it peacefully. She laughed and said, "You won't do it. You're bluffing." I wasn't. The next week, I hired a bulldozer crew. They came early. I wasn't trying to make a spectacle, but I wasn't hiding either. The structure was dismantled and removed from my land. Clean, efficient, No damage beyond what didn't belong there in the first place. The screaming started about 10 minutes in. The wife came running out, shouting, crying, demanding they stop. She called me every name in the book. The kids cried. Neighbors gathered. Phones came out. I stood there, said nothing, and let the crew finish. Within days, I was served with a lawsuit for damages. They claimed emotional distress, loss of property, cruelty, you name it. I responded through my lawyer. That's when the real social fallout started. Family members began calling me. Some cautiously asked for my side. Others didn't bother. One relative actually said, I mean, couldn't you have just let it go? Another called me, and I quote, a monster. I asked them all the same question. Would you be okay if someone built something on your land and refused to move it or pay you? No one answered that directly. The neighbors started whispering. I got looks at the mailbox. Someone left me a note calling me soulless. The wife made sure to tell anyone who'd listen that I destroyed her children's happiness. What she didn't tell them was that she'd been offered a fair legal solution. What she didn't mention was that she refused to pay for land she didn't own. What she didn't explain was that she built something substantial without confirming property lines. The lawsuit's ongoing, but my lawyer is confident. Surveys don't lie. Property law doesn't care about feelings, and courts tend to look very poorly on people who knowingly build on land they don't own. Last I heard, they're scrambling for witnesses willing to say they thought the land was theirs. I didn't bulldoze a playhouse because I hate kids. I bulldozed it because it wasn't theirs to build. And if standing up for your property makes you a monster in some people's eyes, then fine. I'll take that title over being the kind of person who lets someone walk all over me and call it generosity. What people are overlooking is that if that stays over time, in effect, they could claim it as their land. I've heard of cases like that with fences, etc. You're not an a-hole for protecting your property boundaries. You offered them to buy the land, etc. You should sue them for the demolition costs and the unauthorized use of your land. Never let anyone take a part of your property for their use without permission. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.